Donahue.
And I'm Matthew Kaczynski.
It's our pleasure to introduce Pytheas to you today. It is a virtual reality sci-fi game that's going to raise the bar with the psychological horror to a whole new level.
So if we all think back to what scares us all, there's a couple of key concepts. And if we think back to when you're a child and in a room alone, in bed, lights turned off, and you hear the bump in the closet, you often ask yourself, was that real or my imagination? Is there a monster hunting me? I'm alone and afraid, but too afraid to get up and actually check. These are some of the concepts that we wanted to build a game around. Off of that, we have a mission statement to make the scariest VR game without spilling a drop of blood. When we say scares, we don't mean jump scares or gore. We're talking about psychological scaring the player. And our game would be successful when the player is actually too scared to put back on the headset, is actually beginning to question the reality inside and outside the game, but cannot stop talking about their in-game experiences and sharing those with their friends. So based on these very large concepts, we've whittled it down into an actual game that revolves, in essence, Pytheas strives to be the scariest VR survival horror game ever created, set aboard a damaged spaceship, its mission to save mankind. The player must repair the spaceship, keep the colonization crew alive, while struggling with madness and surviving the Lovecraft-style horrors aboard that are both real and imagined. The narrative is and the story is built around the premise that you're aboard a spacecraft whose mission is to save mankind by inhabiting another planet. And yet you are a lone crew member that's been awakened out of cryosleep by the onboard computer system in order to repair your spacecraft, which has been damaged. Now, the first thing that this onboard computer says to you, though, is that it is detected that you have PCM, which we'll talk about in a second. Second thing that it says to you is that there is also a foreign entity aboard. It's that kind of bump in the closet that makes you want to look, but makes you not want to see what's there. So what is post-cryo madness? Post-cryo madness is a severe psychotic illness known to affect deep space travelers after long journeys in cryosleep. Symptoms include hallucinations, delusions, memory loss, blurred vision, amnesia, and distorted reality, which allows the player to ask,
what is real? So, as another one of the many fears that people may have is what I'm seeing real? Is what I'm hearing real? Is what people are telling me actually what's real? Is the computer that's telling me that I have some sort of disorder, or I'm malfunctioning, or am I truly insane? Is what I'm seeing, is it imaginary? Is it dangerous? Or is what I'm seeing an optical illusion or hallucination? So the main objectives in Pytheas is to, first of all, repair the ship and get it back running again so that you can continue on your mission. Also, all the while avoiding the creatures that are roaming aboard the ship. And then, of course, protecting the precious cargo, the colonization crew that is still in cryostasis. While you're doing these objectives, dealing with these things, there's going to be moral dilemmas that you're going to have to face. So, the good of the many versus the good of the few, the choices that you make, say, for instance, an entire wing of the population has perished because you had to focus your efforts elsewhere. Those decisions are going to continue on with you and affect you throughout the rest of the game. So the main gameplay loop here is that you're going to be exploring the available sections of the ship. And then as you do that, you're going to be gathering clues and tools and resources to accomplish various things, such as solving puzzles to save the ship and to protect the cargo, all the while avoiding the creatures that are roaming aboard. This is going to help you to unlock new sections of the ship, which will then get you back into the loop again of exploring the new available sections of the ship, all the while trying to manage your sanity.
Now, if we think about that sanity as being a mechanic, we think about it as the madness mechanic, and that can take place with interactions with the player, including hallucinations. So some of the things that the characters can interact with are real and some of them are not. Impossible rooms. Imagine floating in a zero-G environment and floating by a window. On the right-hand side, you see a planet, and as you float further down the corridor, on the left-hand window, you see that same planet. It's impossible. Is that something you're hallucinating, or is it something that's real? false narrative is the computer? Is it telling you, is it actually guiding you towards your death, or is it actually guiding you and helping you throughout the gameplay? Overarching within this madness mechanic, there's the ability to slip into insanity. So business as usual, you're fixing up the ship, but then you start encountering monsters and these hallucinations or the moral dilemmas that push you closer towards insanity. And eventually you're going to hit a point that you actually go insane. Now, that causes you to slip into an area that requires you to fight to get back towards sanity. That mechanic hasn't been fully fleshed out, but it could come in the form of a quarantine or having to go through a different type of maze to be able to find your way back towards sanity. But then when you come back, the ship isn't quite the same. So what's real? Was your original reality the sane version, or is the new reality your actual sane sanity?
Here are some of our artistic influences. So we wanted to go with a retro sci-fi sort of look, something like maybe Star Trek or some of these other 70s sort of shows and games and such. The distorted reality of something such as Soma or what is it? Anything similar to that where it's distorted reality. Lovecraftian style monsters, so strange things that are roaming aboard that you're not really sure if they're real or not, and you're not sure where they came from or what they do, if they're dangerous. And then of course the upside down world having different sort of realities that you're kind of flipping back and forth between while you're struggling through the sanity. Our art direction, so far we do have a team of 8 artists from LCAD, including an art director. We've established at this point, since we've been working on it since January, a style Bible, basically. This is a section from that which is helping our artists to make sure that everything matches and fits together. Looks like it fits. We also have some concept art here of some of the creatures that may be roaming aboard the ship, and some level design blockouts that we're experimenting with some different movement mechanics, some different, we're working on how the ship may look at this point, and then some of the objects that we'll find throughout the ship. The spaceship section and design, so it's going to start off very clean and welcoming. It's going to look pristine, similar to the image on the left here, but as things begin to unfold, you'll start to find that the other sections of the ship have been altered and damaged and look different, and as things start to progress, then you'll see more and more metamorphosis occur. So as far as project build and developer tools, we're planning to use the Unreal Engine 4. We do have a demo we can show you later on as well if you're in the back. We plan to use Wise for our audio middleware so we can get a really rich audio effect going on. Platform is going to be built out to Oculus Rift, and then our channel will be to the Oculus Store and eventually Steam. So this is our audio. So this is, we're going to have guided narration from the onboard computer, voices from creatures that are aboard, and also in your head. Sound effects for alarms, explosions in the environment, and music to invoke mood and tensions that rise. So we do have an audio engineer who's working with us. This is a sample that he's been working with us on the type of music we make here. So as far as engineering needs, definitely our biggest needs at this point, we want to come up with a custom movement mechanic that's going to be different from a lot of the stuff that you see out there. We don't want to have the typical point and click with the laser, teleport here, teleport there. I don't think that'll feel real enough. So we're exploring different ideas for that. C++ integration into Unreal, of course, since we're going to be using Unreal Engine, and AI programming for the creature activities. Advanced material shaders, that's another one as well. We want this to really have a rich look to it and feel alive. Distortion systems. We want to have a distortion system that's coming about as far as when you start to feel that you're losing your mind and things are going to start to distort. So we want to build that system as well. And then possibly in the future we might get into networking with that.
So where are we going to be 1 year from now? We have a production schedule very loosely planned out right now that's going to be refined through pre-production. We're going to have a polished vertical slice, including 2 sections of the ship to show the dichotomy between the clean and polished area as well as the mechanical underbelly of the ship. And within those areas, we're going to demonstrate the madness mechanics, creature interaction, movement in space, that zero-G travel mechanic, as well as the distortion effects. And then since audio is such an integral part of the immersion, be able to make sure that those are working properly as well. ultimately to be able to have a minimal viable product so that we can launch a Kickstarter to fund the remainder of the production, because 2 sections of the ship aren't going to be, they're going to be representative of the much larger ship that will be built out for the final game. Now, some of the risks and mitigations, first and foremost, since the monster is going to be largely unseen but still have effects on the player, being able to create the AI for the monster stalking is something that we've looked into. And some of the mitigations are benchmarking on what's already been out there, including we've already spoken with a software engineer from Texas A&M that has some software that can help build out this. Second risk is the audio effects have to be cohesive and match the gameplay. That since audio is such an important part of it, we've already brought on an experienced audio engineer that's done this demo track, but we're also wanting to recruit more to have them be part of the game development process to make it cohesive. And then finally, VR is already disorienting enough. When we start to incorporate these mechanics, that's going to only increase that amount of disorientation, which we want to avoid the motion sickness. So we're going to have to really test out these different types of mechanics, see what works, see what doesn't, and that's going to be throughout the pre-production and early on in the production schedule so that we can have something that works and works properly. So in terms of our team, we've already built out a fairly large team, and the 2 original creators, Philip and Patrick, have 10 years experience within the gaming industry, everything from AAA titles down to independent titles that they've shipped, as well as being instructors for both game design and art. So in addition to having great experience, they also have great ability to mentor individuals that come aboard the team.
For our lead producer, we have Matthew. He's enrolled in the MBA at USC here, and he's got over 10 years of experience in project management through the military, and is ongoing to do a project management role as well this summer at Blizzard. We have associate producer Mercedes and one programmer, Corbin, I used earlier from USC, and we're looking for a engineer lead, of course, and of course we've got a team of 8 artists as well as an art director. Our team goals is to make waves in the capabilities of VR, as well as to demonstrate the psychological game scares, different from anything we've seen before. Refine the game development process and expand on the tools of the trade, as well as make a viable demo to launch a Kickstarter campaign crowdfunding to our niche audience. So who wants to help create the scariest VR game ever made? Anybody? Okay, so our team needs, especially are, as I've said, software engineers. We need a lead engineer. We need people to work on some of the things I had mentioned before as far as engineering goes. 3D character modelers, as well as rigging, lighting artists, VFX artists, level designers, narrative design, marketing, and finance. Here's our contact info of our directors here. If any of you want to talk with us further, of course we'll be open for Q&A, and we'll be in the back after that. Does anybody have any questions?
What is your target VR platform?
Our target VR platform is the Oculus store, and then eventually probably go over to Steam after that.
Oculus store and Steam, okay.
Anything else? Go ahead.
One minor question. Do the monsters ever actually do any physical damage to you?
So we're exploring different ideas. I think we'll probably have a few that don't, and then possibly, we're working out on different damage systems. So we have a sanity system right now, that's what we're focusing on, and then we're looking at, how far will that damage system work? Will you be able to be killed, and if so, what's going to happen after that? So
What part of it is, do I need to worry about the monsters, or can I ignore the sanity system?
Yeah, in terms of the sanity system, when you interact with the monster, it's pushing you closer towards madness, so it increases that amount of distortion effects, which then causes you to, at a certain point, to go insane, and there would be a pain point that would have to bring you back. It's to be determined if that can act on its own alone, or if there needs to be also a health mechanic as well. You have to worry about.
Okay, we have time for one more question.
Yeah.
Since it's a VR game, have you ever considered about the safety of playing this game? Like if it's too hard to like this down or something, like you can fall down or something, because you have to be wearing the VR set.
well, we'll have like kind of a perimeter that you can be in, and that's kind of somewhat built into the VR, where you have like a guardian get too close to the edge, you'll have mapped out your, you know, your open space that you can safely be in. First of all, you won't be able to travel with it, so it's not gonna be a
Yeah, the movement mechanic is all internal to the VR system. It's just to be determined about how, you know, like right now, the transport mechanic is very popular, but we'd like to do something different with that with the zero-G environment.
Okay, we're out of time.
Thanks.